Hi, and this is the presentation for the how to use MyStatLab or MyMathLab that's going to be associated with completing your homeworks as well as your computational quizzes for this particular class. So by this particular point, if you did the housekeeping video and walked through how to get enrolled into MyStatLab, this is now the point where we're ready to go in and take a look at completing the homework assignment as well as the corresponding computational quiz. So once you've logged into MyStatLab, depending on if you've had classes before, you may have other classes that are listed there, but if you successfully enrolled into MyStatLab, you're going to have a box here that looks like MA3000 D3 Business Statistics Fall 2016. So you want to go ahead and click on that. That will get you entry into MyStatLab. Okay? So now, once we're in here, this is the main screen that you are presented with in terms of working inside of MyStatLab. You'll notice there's two things on your plate inside of MyStatLab that has to be completed. You'll notice in the previous message I made mention, even though that the due date listed inside of the syllabus is September the 11th for LP homework and LP1 computational quiz, you do get that additional 14 days late to still submit it for credit. After the 25th, it is no longer available for you inside of MyStatLab to complete. So you'll notice the two things currently on your plate as of day one of the course is the LP homework, LP1 homework rather, and the LP1 computational quiz. And we'll give you those corresponding due dates that are listed there. Before you actually go in and dive into your respective assignments, there's one thing that I do want to point out that's going to be extremely helpful in terms of completing assignments inside of the course. You'll notice this link that's here. It is Course Tools. If you click on that, and underneath Course Tools, there should be a link on your end that shows Document Sharing. If I click on that guy, there's going to be two subfolders that are listed here, one of which is what's called Homework Sample Problems. The other is Excel Templates. Let's look at this first one, the Homework Sample Problems that are listed here. If I click on that link, you will notice for the LP homeworks that are out there, I have a printout of LP1, LP2, all the way up through LP9. So, if you click on that LP1 homework sample problems, it is going to open up a PDF file where they have already been worked out, as well as you see the sample answers that are out there. Now, do keep in mind, once you go into this, that your problems are going to be different. It's going to be the same objective, but at least you have a base reference to go in and look at those corresponding problems that are there, and that's how you get to them. For example, for LP1 homework, if I downloaded that, it's going to look something very similar to what I've got currently here on the screen. So for problem number one, you'll notice the problem that's listed there. It gives you as an example what the answers are and the correct answer that has been selected. In this case, discrete numerical being the correct answer on it. So at least you have that as a baseline that's out there. Okay, so that is available to you. Now, for each particular LP assignment that's out there, I'm going to scroll back up here, there is an Excel template. As I made mention in the welcome message, I have available out there to help speed up the calculations an Excel template that's going to be utilized in each of the respective assignments. And again, for each of the homework assignments, I'm going to have a video that's out there that's going to walk through me doing the respective homework assignment and how to integrate Excel that's out there. So, for example, I'm going to go ahead and open up the one that I would use for week one or the LP1 homework assignment. If I click on that, notice it's going to prompt me to open up Excel. And again, you have to have Microsoft Excel loaded on the PC where you're working to complete the assignment. So notice It'll prompt me to open with Microsoft Excel. I click OK. Takes a second or two here to load. And you'll notice, once I have opened this, I now have a template that's available to me to help complete my respective assignments. Now, one thing that you need to make sure that you do once you open a respective template, you're going to want to click on this Enable Editing button. Enable Editing is the very first thing that you have to do to ensure you can do work inside of the Excel template. So I'm going to click Enable Editing, and you'll notice that that guide disappears. If you don't click on it, there's nothing that you can do inside of this template to work. Now, at the very bottom of the screen, you'll notice there are a series of worksheets that are here. If I click on the first one, that maps to question 5, which maps to the problem number that's also going to be listed inside of MyStatLab. So question 5 maps to internally problem 2.1.1. If I click on the next one, that gets me question 6, question 7, and so on. One thing I want to point out as far as the respective tabs, there's 3 things you need to pay attention to. If the item is white, in other words, the items that I've just highlighted from cell A1 through B4, if those guys are white in color, that means that it's going to be able to be pasted in from a copy from MyStatLab. Yellows, such as what I've just highlighted there, Microsoft Excel is doing the corresponding calculations. You want to leave those guys alone. In other words, don't modify what's the content inside here, because relative to what's inside of A1 through B4, those guys are going to redo the calculations based upon what you have typed in here. And in my first homework 1 assignment, I'm going to show you how to do the copy-paste from opening inside of MyStatLab to pasting it into the corresponding template. So whites you paste in, yellows you're going to leave alone. If the colors are green, and I don't think I have one for homework 2, let me check here. I don't think I have one that's green for this go around, and I do. If something is green, that means you're going to type in the values inside of those boxes. So to recap, whites, you paste in from MyStatLab into the template. Yellows, you leave alone. Microsoft Excel is doing a calculation. If they're greens, you have to type in the value to match what is associated in that given problem. So again, those 3 options are available inside of the respective template. And again, the worksheets that are at the bottom map to the corresponding problems that are out there inside of MyStatLab. So you have that respective tool available to you. Okay, so I'm going to minimize that. And now we're going to go back into MyStatLab to take a look at your first homework assignment. And I'm going to walk through the interface, how to key in the answers, how to interface with MyStatLab. 95% of everything you're going to do inside of MyStatLab is either going to come from homework or quizzes and tests. If I click on homework, you'll notice as of today, we have our LP1 homework assignment from day 1 inside of the class. You'll notice off to the left right now, it shows the due date as the 25th. The due date in the syllabus is September the 11th. You get the additional 14 days to complete that respective assignment late up through the 25th. So if I click on LP1 homework, that is going to open up the list of the corresponding problems. You'll notice from the sample problems, these guys that I just referenced before, if I scroll down to the very end here, you'll notice there are 14 problems inside the sample problems to take a look at. You'll notice if I come back to the homework, you have the same 14 problems that are listed there. So you can map question 1 to question 1, question 2 to question 2, and so on all the way through question 14 to question 14. So if I look at question number 1, I go ahead and click on that guy. This pop-up will open up. And you'll notice you're prompted to answer the problem. As I made mention in the initial video, homework is practice until mastery. So in other words, we can redo the problem as many times as needed to get the green check mark or the problem correct on this. So I read through this and it says for each of the values, determine if categorical or numerical. If it's numerical, determine if it's discrete or continuous. So in this case, it says the distance in miles from a person's house to the nearest store is what kind of variable? I'm going to probably argue it's continuous numerical. Now, once I've selected that button, it's going to prompt me to submit that answer. Submit the answer, I'm going to have final check on that. One of two things will occur. Either I'm going to see a green box back saying, correct, good job, gnarly, awesome. No, it really won't do gnarly or awesome on it. But it is going to show you in that particular instance whether you got it right or with the red X saying that you've got it wrong. So let's see if it's correct. I click final check. Notice the green mark is listed there saying good job. I click OK. Now, certain problems have multiple parts, and again, you'll see that inside of the sample problems. It says whether telephone service in a household is provided by the household's internet provider. That is either a yes or no type of question. I'm going to go categorical. I think that's the correct answer on it. I click final check. It tells me good job. I click OK. Notice you've got part C. And notice at the bottom, it's now showing me all parts showing in this case. The number of landline telephones in the household is one kind of variable. Well, last time I checked, you can't have 2.5 phones inside of a house. That is something that's countable. So I'm going to argue that that is discrete numerical. I'm going to do a final check on that. And you'll notice it says well done in this instance. So I can go and now click the next question. It will prompt me now for question number 2. Okay. Now for this one, I'm going to go ahead and going to assume that I'm going to get the problem wrong. I'm going to show you practice until mastery on this. Number of computers owned, I'm going to say is categorical. I click the button. It's going to give me a blurb in this case with a red X telling me, hey, you've done something wrong. Some feedback in this instance telling you, hey, categorical values can only be placed in categories. Numerical, something that you count. And you'll notice in that instance, now it has a red X telling you how you answered it and the green star telling you what the correct answer was. Method of payment, what type of variable? That one I got right, so we're still fine. Weight, I'm going to do categorical. Again, that's not going to be correct. Final check on that. Again, gives me the blurb that tells me that it's not correct. And occupation, I'm going to select something wrong on that. You'll notice it's not correct. Once you've completed the problem, you got a couple options. You can click similar question. What similar question is going to do is allow you to redo that problem until you get all parts of it correct. So I'm going to click similar question. You'll notice up at the top it's got a green check mark and a red X. Your previous attempt was you got part of it right. If it just had a red X in it, you got all of it wrong. So in this instance, weight is what type of value? I'm going to argue numerical continuous. Fantastic. Number of siblings, I don't think you have half of a sibling floating around. So that's going to be discrete. Eye color, that's going to be categorical. You don't assign 1 to brown and 2 to black or 3 to blue or whatever the case may be. So final check there. Categorical. And last but not least, method of payment. That's going to either be credit card, debit card, etc. That's going to be categorical in my opinion. Final check. Well done. Notice now, if I click next question, I can go to the next one, but I'm going to click the X here to get out of it. Notice it shows the green check mark. You can always see your progress on a respective homework assignment if you click the down arrow. Notice we've completed question 1 and question 2. It has a green check mark to the left. It will also give you the summary up at the top that there's 14 questions. It scored 2 and you've gotten 2 of them correct. Now, for question number 3, I'm going to go ahead and pull up this guy. And let's say for the sake of argument, I've read through this problem and I have no idea how to do this particular problem. Underneath question help, if I click on this guy, I've got several options depending on the problem. The first of which is the textbook. And if you get that message, you can click OK and it will eventually open. But once this opens here in the next second or two, you're going to notice it's going to open where inside of the textbook that problem is coming from. So I can read inside of the textbook where that particular problem is coming from. So again, that's a great reference that's out there for that particular type of problem. So I'm going to close that so I have textbook that's available. I also have the option for Ask My Instructor. What Ask My Instructor is going to do is that particular problem, I can click on that and it will send the instructor, me, an email that you need assistance on that problem. I will then respond to the email generally within 24 hours, unless it's a Saturday afternoon / Sunday. I will respond in a timely fashion for assistance on that given problem. I'm not going to click on that right now because obviously I don't need to send myself an email on that. You can also print as well. You've got that functionality that's there. I am going to pull up a different problem here to take a look at where it's got some other options that are available for that problem. If I go underneath question help, there are 2 other ones depending if it's got calculations that will be helpful in terms of doing the respective problem. So this first one that I'm going to show is called Help Me Solve This. What Help Me Solve This will do, it's going to take the one that's currently on the screen, i.e. this problem that I've currently got on the screen. It's going to show you step by step on how to work the problem. Once you've done that, you're going to notice that it's going to change from 15, 7, and 28 to a different series of numbers. So let's demonstrate this. Notice it's the same problem as what I've currently got on the screen right now. So it's going to go through continue, and let's see, 15 plus 7 is 22, plus 8, I can 40. I check the answer. It's telling me it's wrong because 15 plus 7 is 22, and if I add 28, notice again, now it's 50. I'll learn how to add one of these days. So that's 50. So again, what it's going to do is it's going to walk you through step by step if I continue to do those calculations. I'm not going to go through all of it because that would be part of your learning process that you would end up doing in that case. Now, notice once I click close on this, watch what happened. It went from 15, 7, and 28 to a different series of numbers. Because once you complete Help Me Solve This, it's going to go through and literally walk you through the correct answers. So the goal is you need to be able to practice this inside of homework to get it correct. Now, option 2 on certain problems is what's called View an Example. If I click on View an Example, it's going to work a different set of numbers for that problem. However, it's going to keep the 10, 26, and 14 that I currently have on the screen. So I'll do a View an Example. Notice it will walk you through, if I click continue, of the corresponding steps on how to get each of the corresponding values. And notice it'll walk through, if it's got multiple parts, some blurb that's associated with that, and it'll show you the final answer on that as well. So if I click close, notice again, the problem did not change in that instance. So, again, that's some help that is available inside of that particular problem. This one also has textbook, like what we illustrated before. It also has Ask My Instructor. Now, one caveat of Ask My Instructor. If there's 14 problems and you send me 14 Ask My Instructor, odds are I'm not going to answer every single one. I will answer a subset of those respective problems, but I'm not going to go through every single problem that's out there. So again, try at least to do the problem, use the aids that are inside of MyStatLab. But again, Ask My Instructor, if you want to use that, that's fine. But if you send it for every single problem, I'm probably not going to respond to every single one that's out there. So again, what the goal is, when all's said and done, you want green check marks on all 14 of the problems. If you have 14 green check marks on all the problems, that's going to get you to the full 40 points that's associated with the homework. Now there's 4 different things that you will see all listed to the left of every single problem. Green check mark, you got the problem correct. You got full credit. The green check mark with the /X, that tells you in that instance you got part of the points. If it's the case where it's got a red X, you've got no credit. Notice on problem number 5 is an example of that. If it has nothing to the left of it, that means you have not attempted that corresponding problem. So when all said and done with those 14 problems, you want to ensure you got green check marks to the left of each and every one of those guys. Again, unlimited per question. You can do those 14 problems as many times as you want by clicking the similar exercise on that problem. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close out of the homework because we've demonstrated the different aids that are available. And again, for homework 1, I'm going to create a video where I'm going to go through step by step on every single problem out of those 14 on how to complete. So I'm going to close out of the homework. If it prompts you for that, that's fine. You'll click Leave Page. And you'll notice that information was updated as well. Here, showing question 1, question 2 we completed. Question 5 is still showing wrong because we still have not attempted that, or we've attempted the problem, but I still have not issued a correct answer on it. Now, for every corresponding homework, there is a corresponding computational quiz. To get to those guys, you're going to click on Quizzes and Tests. So you'll notice right now, the only thing that's available to you is this LP1 computational quiz. Now, on Monday, the 12th of September, you're going to see LP2 computational quiz that's listed out there as well. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a computational quiz. It's going to show you, again, 3 hours to complete the quiz. You got 3 attempts on it. I haven't tried it yet, so that's why it's showing 0 out of 3. So I'm going to click Start Test in this case. You'll notice in the upper right-hand corner, it shows you how much time you have left. Now, one thing associated with the quiz, you can get in and out of the quiz as many times as you want. However, once the clock starts, you have 3 hours to complete it. So let's say, hypothetically, it's 7 o'clock Mountain Standard Time p.m. You have until 10 o'clock Mountain Standard Time to complete that attempt on the quiz. It's not exit out of the quiz, go get some help from somebody else, come back and answer all the 14 questions. It doesn't work that way. Once the clock starts, you have to complete it within that 3 hours. Now, if your browser locks up or something happens along those lines and you have an issue with it, you can get in and out of the quiz as much as you want. It's just that the clock, once it starts, it still is going to count down the 3 hours. That is why one of the reasons I allow 3 attempts on the quiz. So in other words, don't come in and say, my browser locked up, etc., etc. You have up to 3 attempts. So you want to make sure you're at a place where you have a stable internet connection when you go and you take one of these quiz attempts. You'll also notice on the right-hand side of the screen, I do not have the aids that are listed here. The Help Me Solve This, View an Example, Ask the Instructor, or the textbook. None of those guys are listed inside of the quiz. That is intentional because You should be doing your practice inside of the homework and not in a computational quiz. So again, that you would go through, submit your, go through, you can go and scroll through your respective questions. You can scroll back to the original question that you were dealing with. And again, you can get to them as the test overview. You can click any of those 14 that are out there for those. Quizzes are worth 35 points depending on your performance. Get you a certain percentage out of 35 points that would be recorded to D2L on Mondays when I do my corresponding feedback on that. So I'm going to leave out of the respective quiz there. And notice again, it didn't score it at this point because I'm on an instructional end. In the next video, I am going to walk through the homework 1, walk you through step by step on how to go through the respective calculations are there for homework 1's perspective. Thank you.